the Chief Executive Officer at Matrix Global Holdings, joining in on the show right now, and also Vandana, founder and CEO at Vanda Insights, to talk about, where they think this tussle between India and US is actually going to pan out and end, hopefully. But Richard, what is your own sense? While we don't have any benchmark on typically, where this is going to really head, but a very pragmatic response from India, one must say.
Very pragmatic. And thank you for having me. India needs to import oil. That's its job. Its job is to supply oil for its people. The largest refineries, Reliance, is a privately held company, so it's going to import oil from any source it can, and Russian oil has been at a discount, and the type of oil that it imports has been important to its output. Remember, though, Trump is negotiating. He's dealing. He's always doing something, and I think your prior two people said something very interesting. One is the stock market ended record highs. The second was EU felt as if it was taken to the cleaners on the last deal, and so you're in a situation where this is really more, I believe, a negotiation of using India, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, as a pawn in a negotiation that Trump is trying to end the war in Ukraine. I think that's really what we're seeing here. You'll see maybe IOC and some of the other state-owned refiners maybe push back on or not import as much Russian oil as they have. But I think what this really is a larger focus by Trump. He's trying to juggle a lot of balls simultaneously, and I believe in this case what he's trying to do is put some pressure on Russia through India.
Vandana, hi, morning. What is your own sense, given Russia's supply of oil to global markets, and now with Trump on the other hand trying to smidge that, do you think it would have a bearing on which way oil prices head, and especially the India-Russia dynamic?
Good morning. So based on the reaction we've seen so far from crude, which has been rolling downhill yesterday, this morning as well, what that tells me is that the market is not taking Trump's threat seriously. I think probably an input for the market is also the fact that India is standing its ground. Had India said that, okay, we are going to halt or reduce our purchases of close to 1.7, 1.8 million barrels per day, that would have been a major concern for the market as to where this 1.8 million barrels per day goes if India doesn't take it. Obviously, China could take a bit more. I doubt it could take equal to what India has been absorbing from Russia or anytime soon, and you would have seen prices spiking. So the market doesn't seem to be taking it seriously, and I'm glad to note that India is standing its ground as well.
Well, yes, for now, not much of a movement is what we are seeing on the crude oil prices, Vandana, but if at all the sanctions do take place, because for now very strong comments coming against India, but along with that Donald Trump is also threatening that he may want to sanction the other nations as well which are importing oil from Russia. How do you see crude oil reacting to that? Because for now it's been quite a range-bound trading on the crude oil prices, but can it really inch higher and taking above that $72 per barrel mark?
Yeah, so a major question there is whether he will actually go ahead. What is the gap between his threats and his actually proceeding to impose such tariffs? Now, first of all, there's also double standards here. You alluded to him potentially doing the same for other buyers of Russian crude, and mind you, there's refined products as well. So there's China and Turkey, aside from India when it comes to crude, and the same countries as well as major importers like Brazil and South America when it comes to refined products. Now, as far as optics goes, this is not looking good for Trump, singling out India, when there is all of these other countries which are importing crude as well. Now, if he does go ahead and impose these, let's call it 100% secondary tariffs on India, which would mean that the US would charge 100% tariffs for goods exported by India. India has a few options. One is it can simply ignore and let things take their course, that the trade supply chains and so on will reorganize, will rearrange themselves around such shocks. India could look to other markets to place its goods, or it could go into negotiations with the US. Now, of course, it's not for me to say which tack India will take on this, but from all the signs that we can read as of now, India is saying that it's standing its ground, and it's saying it will probably take steps or respond as and when the next step from the US becomes clear. It's really no point making major shifts in things like crude imports simply based on guesswork or speculation.
Sure, certainly sounds positive on that front, given that even though these threats are intensifying on India from Donald Trump, India seems to have some options to diversify its trade. But Richard, given that these threats are increasing as of now from Donald Trump, and if they were to actually play out, do you believe global investors could start repricing their geopolitical risk on India and emerging markets, and how could this impact India's overall trade with the West?
Well, Vanda made a very good point. I think that India is going to stand its ground for the time being. I don't think there's going to be any change. I think, again, I'll go back to this. I think that Trump is negotiating in real time. He is tweeting in real time. I do believe that I saw an article, maybe it was wrong, that IOC came out and said they were going to reduce Russian imports for this period of time. Remember, oil comes from Russia. It takes 35 days to get there. It only takes about 10 to 15 days to come from the Middle East. And so there's excess capacity in the Middle East, which is really the overall issue here, right? It's not so much that it's where does oil move and what happens to Russian oil, is that we have overcapacity overall in the world. And so there tends to be price pressure overall. When you talk about repricing risk and looking at India, I think this is, I don't want to say this, maybe I'm wrong, but I think this is a flash in the pan. I think this is something that's going to go away over the next few weeks. We just had Iran attacked. That's in our rearview mirror now, right? That was oil at $78, and now it's trading $65, $66. And so the market recovers very quickly. It is very good at repricing itself, particularly when it comes to commodities. And the fact that the U.S. stock market is at all-time highs, and that we're seeing a market that I believe, as far as oil is concerned, is in balance, means that what we're seeing right now, again, is a negotiation. I think that's what we have to look to. I lived in New York for 20 years when Donald Trump was a real estate developer. I've learned to take everything he says with a relative grain of salt. And I think that the market over time is starting to do the same.
I think, Richard, the bigger point is, where do you suspect the dollar is going to head? Because that in itself is going to dictate which way flows actually move across the globe. And do you sense that perhaps portfolios across the board are now weaning off or easing out on their U.S. exposure?
Well, you say that, but again, when stock markets make record highs, how important is the dollar? I think the dollar is probably still going to weaken. The most recent employment report shows that employment is suffering a little bit, which tends to make one believe that we're going to see a rate cut sometime in September and probably another one at the end of the year. And so the dollar itself can probably struggle. But is this not a larger picture? Is this not a revaluation of how the market looks at everything? And I think the goal that we're trying to get to, or at least a goal that Trump is trying to get to, is free trade. Let's get these things going. I'm going to put tariffs on you to come to the U.S. to sell us goods. But as it relates to increasing the ability for people to transact, I think that's what we're talking about. And I think that where the dollar goes, and this might sound wrong, but I think with the dollar doesn't matter at this point in time. I think the oil prices are in balance. I think that what he is doing is trying to negotiate peace in different parts of the world. And I think that's the focus, really what should be the key focus for the market right now.
Sure. So, Richard and Vandana, thank you so much for joining us this morning with your insights and your time. Great chatting to you.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's move away from that, but let's talk about